Hello and welcome once again to Serendipity. I'm Mrs. Wheeless from the Summit Library. And today's program is a very exciting one because we're going to have the story of Aladdin and the Magic Lamp. I love stories about genies. And we're going to have another story about a beautiful Persian carpet. Now, some of you kids who have come to Serendipity in the past will remember the motions to this song called Join In. Those who don't know the motions, you can learn them. They're very easy and very fun to do during the chorus of the song. Here we go. Come on, everybody, let's all join together. Join in, my friend. Let's sing with each other like sister and brother. It's fun, everyone. We've got tales and tunes from all over everywhere. Join in, my friend. All right, I hope you'll do the motions because it makes it a lot of fun. Come on, everybody, let's all join together. Join in, my friend. Let's sing with each other like sister and brother. It's fun, everyone. We've got tales and tunes from all over everywhere. Join in, my friend. We've got a story of Aladdin from Arabian Nights. He's cool and no fooling, and a lamp that fills his table with delights. You bet, no sweat. Clap your hands, step your feet. Just get up off your seat. We're moving and grooving. Come on, everybody, let's all join together. Join in, my friend. Let's sing with each other like sister and brother. It's fun, everyone. We've got tales and tunes from all over everywhere. Join in, my friend. We got a tale all about a diamond that sparkles with light. It's big, you dig, and weavers who wove both day and night. They finished, undiminished. Snap your fingers, tap your toes. You're dancing like a pro. Move out, talking about. Come on, everybody, let's all join together. Join in, my friends. Let's sing with each other like sister and brother. It's fun, everyone. We've got tales and tunes from all over everywhere. Join in, my friends. We've got tales and tunes from all over everywhere. Join in, my friends. We've got tales and tunes from all over everywhere. Join in. This book is entitled The Legend of the Persian Carpet. Now, this is interesting because the story itself, not the pictures, the story is written by Tommy DePaulo. Now, you're very familiar with Stregonona and many other stories that he has written and done his own illustrations for. But for this, he really wanted to experiment, and he asked Claire Ewart if she would do the illustrations because he admired her artwork. So this is something a little different. He's a wonderful writer. I love the way he writes as well as his art. Now, Claire Ewart really did a great deal of research on Persian art, Persian rugs and architecture. So the way she illustrated the story is very authentic and beautiful. Many, many years ago in the land once called Persia, there lived a kind and wise king who was much loved by all his people. He lived in a white stone palace of many rooms, surrounded by gardens filled with flowers and fruit trees and sparkling fountains. King Baelish had everything a man could desire. But his most prized possession was a large diamond. This diamond was set on a special pedestal and was so beautiful and so bright that it filled not only the room it was in, but all the surrounding rooms with 1,000,000 rainbows. King Baelish was not a selfish man. He loved and trusted his people so much that he kept no guards near the diamond. Every afternoon, when the sun was just right and until it set, the king opened the doors of his palace. Anyone who wished could come to see the walls of the room painted with the diamond's light. One day at dusk, as the crowds were leaving, a stranger to the kingdom slipped in among the visitors and stole the diamond. Like the wind, the thief raced his horse across the rocky plain toward the desert and the setting sun. But the horse stumbled, and the diamond fell from the thief's hand, and it shattered on the rocks. The setting sun shone blood red on the fragments and reflected 1,000,000 sunsets into the thief's eyes. He staggered off empty-handed, cursing his luck and rubbing his eyes. Now it was King Baelish's custom to spend the time of the rising sun in the Hall of the Diamond with its amazing reflections. But instead of 1,000,000 rainbows, all that greeted the king was the empty pedestal and a room filled with shadows and gloom. "Call my people," ordered the king. "I must tell them of this tragedy. They must help me find our treasure." The people set out, and soon a small boy named Payam, who was an apprentice in the street of the weavers, came to the rocky place. The morning sun shot through the diamond fragments and dazzled Payam with such a sight that he couldn't believe his eyes. Off he ran to the palace and was brought before the king. "Oh, there, O king," said Payam, "among all the rocks is the diamond, broken into 1,000 pieces, sparkling in the sun, reflecting all the colors of the rainbow on the ground." "I must see for myself," said the king. "Go with me." And when they reached the place, King Baelish was so overwhelmed by the carpet of diamonds that he sat down and said, "I shall always stay here. I shall never enter the dark palace again." "But sire," cried Payam, "you can't. Who shall rule the kingdom? Who shall guide and help the people?" But King Baelish did not listen. He stared at the shimmering light, lost in his own thoughts. The people were all in confusion. Without a leader, they and their homes could be attacked by any robber king from the desert. Their very lives were in danger. Payam, the young boy, sat and thought. He called all the other young apprentices together. "We must help our king and our people," Payam told them. "We must make a carpet as miraculous as the one our king stares at on the rocky plain. We must all work together." The apprentices agreed, and so did the master weavers and dyers of silk threads. Everyone set to work. Payam went to King Baelish. "Please, sire, come back and sit on the throne for a year and a day," Payam said. "If we cannot fill the room with color and light in that time, then we will accept our fate and live without a king a year and a day." It was the least he could do for his people. So King Baelish agreed. Day and night they all worked, spinning, dyeing, weaving on the large rug loom. And in a year and a day, the carpet was finished. The workers carried the carpet to the palace and into the dark hall where the diamond had rested. With a flourish, they unrolled it before the king. Suddenly, the room was once more filled with the colors of the rainbow. Reds, golds, blues, and greens of the silk carpet glowed on the floor, reflecting color off the walls and the ceiling. Once more, the room was filled with light, and King Baelish and his people were happy. And happiest of all were Payam and the other apprentices, for they had not only saved their kingdom, but they had made the most beautiful carpet in all the world. And that is the story of the legend of the Persian carpet. Now, I'm going to show you the craft for today. I always like to choose something that you could easily do at home with things that you have at home, and I like to tie it in with the stories. Remember, the first story was about a beautiful carpet that was made for the king, and it had so many colors, and it glistened and shone like rainbows. And so I tried to make one. I'm sure your beautiful carpet will be better than mine. But I tried to make one, and I used some glitter to brighten it up. And on the edges, I have the fringe, because Persian carpets have fringe. And I did some geometric shapes and flowers. So I would love to see yours sometimes if you do it. I'm at the library on Tuesday mornings and Thursday afternoons. The title of this book is Aladdin and Other Tales from the Arabian Nights. The text was written by Rosalind, Kerven, and the illustrations are by Nilesh, Mistry. You can see the illustrations are very exciting. Now, there are several stories in this book, but the one we're going to focus on is Aladdin and the Magic Lamp. Now, these are considered to be Persian stories, and Persia is the same as today's Iran, but it was much larger than that. Here is a map that shows that it ran from Morocco in northern Africa, all up through Arabia, Persia. Some of the stories most likely were influenced by India. And here we have China, which is actually the setting of the Aladdin story. And the reason for that is when the Arabian Nights stories were being told by Scheherazade, as the legend goes. She set the story in China because that was a foreign land, far away and exotic, and she thought it made the story more exciting, which I think it did. Now, the legend goes that a queen whose name was Scheherazade was married to a great king, and he loved to hear her tell stories. Now, every night she would tell him a story until late in the night, and then she would stop telling the story right at the most exciting point and said, "Oh, we're so tired, we all must go to sleep." And then he couldn't wait, the king couldn't wait till the next night to hear the continuation of the story. And the legend goes that she did that for 1,001 nights, and that's where these stories came from. And now, the story of Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp. There was once an evil magician from Morocco who longed to gain power over all the treasure in the whole world. Now he chanted the words of hideous spells, and softly, slowly, a mist appeared. And when the mist fell still and fixed itself into a vision, the magician was looking into the faraway country of exotic China. There he saw a towering mountain, and within its slopes the shape of a great stone slab. in the middle of which was a gleaming copper ring. He divined that this slab was like a door, behind which lay unimaginable riches. But that door could never be opened by anyone except one unique person, a young man who bore the name Aladdin. And so the magician wasted no time. He turned himself into a shadow bird and flew all the way to China. Then he went from village to village and town to town, asking everyone if they knew a young man named Aladdin. But no one did, until he came to the emperor's own city. And there, when he asked that question, people began to smile and nod at the name, and they pointed the magician toward the marketplace. There, he heard someone shouting, "Aladdin, you good-for-nothing wretch! Get out of here, you troublemaker!" And then a young man came laughing and racing through the narrow passages between the stalls, straight into the magician's outstretched arms. "So," cried the magician, "Aladdin, the very person I was looking for." Aladdin jumped back. "Who are you?" he asked. The magician's face twisted into a grin. "Oh, my dear boy, don't you know me? I am your long-lost uncle. I have traveled thousands of miles right across the world to find you and to help you." Aladdin tried to get away, but the magician seized his arm. "Don't be afraid of me, my poor Aladdin. I know all about you. I know that your father, my own dear brother, is dead, and that you and your mother have no money and often go hungry. That is why I have come to take you away and make you rich." With these words, he whirled Aladdin firmly around and marched him out of the marketplace. Aladdin yelled and struggled, but it made no difference. The magician hurried him out of the city, through the countryside, and into the wilderness. At sunset, they came to a great mountain, and there they stopped. The magician built a fire of sweet-smelling twigs. Then he chanted weirdly into the billowing smoke, throwing incense into the flames. All at once, there was a deafening clap of thunder. The ground shook. Then an enormous hole opened up into the mountain. Wedged inside it was a heavy stone slab. In the center of the slab was a gleaming copper ring. "Aladdin," hissed the magician, "lift that slab and enter the mountain. Inside you will find a cave. Do not touch anything there, but walk straight through until you come to an enchanted garden. There you will see a stone pedestal, and on top of the pedestal is a small lamp. Pick the lamp up carefully and bring it back to me." But, said Aladdin. The magician pulled out a ring and slipped it onto Aladdin's finger. "Here," he said, "I will let you borrow this. It will protect you from danger while you are underground." But, Aladdin said. "Just do it," the magician cried, and he pushed Aladdin toward the stone slab. As Aladdin fell against it, the slab opened up, and Aladdin found himself stumbling down some steps. He was in a great empty cave, as black and cool as the night. He walked slowly forward with his heart pounding toward a distant beam of light. He passed into the enchanted garden. The garden lay in the very heart of the mountain. Many gnarled trees grew there, each one heavy with fruit. Aladdin reached out and felt the fruit. It was marble, all different colors. And so Aladdin picked some of these fruits and put them into his pockets. Then he came to the stone pedestal. On top of it was a small brass oil lamp. It looked rather old and very tarnished. Whatever did the magician want it for? Aladdin picked up the lamp and wrapped it inside his shirt for safety. Then he went back the same way until he could see the opening where the slab opened up the cave. The magician was waiting for him. "Have you got it? Have you got it?" he screeched. "Then hand it over. Hand it over now." He reached out and tried to snatch the lamp from Aladdin, but it caught inside the boy's shirt, and the magician's impatient, grabbing fingers could not reach it. "Bad boy," he said, "how dare you try to keep it from me?" And he gave Aladdin a hard slap. The force of it made Aladdin fall right back into the cave. The next minute, there was a loud crash, and the heavy stone slab slammed tightly shut behind him. The magician was beside himself with rage, for the stone slab could only be lifted from the outside by Aladdin. And he had lost not only the young man, but also the lamp. Finally, in a shudder of infernal wings, he flew back across the world to lick his wounds in the darkness of his own lair. Meanwhile, back inside the cave, Aladdin lay bruised and terrified after his fall. He began to panic, for he quickly realized that he was trapped. All he could do now was weep and moan and twist his hands together. As he did that, his hands inadvertently rubbed the magician's ring. This ring was a magic ring. As soon as it was rubbed, blue smoke came spilling out of it. Slowly, the smoke settled and grew until it took the solid form of a fearsome genie. The genie cried in a voice that seemed to rumble from the deepest parts of the earth. "I am the genie of this magic ring. Your wish is my command. Tell me what you want, and I will give it to you at once." At first, Aladdin was so frightened by the sight of the genie that he could not speak. But then he was able to whisper, I wish I was out of this dreadful cave and safely back in my own home." And psst, he turned round and round, and when he opened his eyes, he was safely back in his own home, with his mother staring at him in astonishment. Aladdin's mother listened in horror and amazement as he told her all about the magician, the cave, the ring, and the genie. When he had finished, she shook her head sadly. "Oh, Aladdin, if only you could do something useful for a change, instead of getting mixed up in such wickedness and danger. Didn't I beg you this morning to go out and earn some money? Well, because you ignored me as usual, we can't afford to buy any food, and there is nothing left to eat." Then Aladdin suddenly thought about the lamp that he still had hidden inside of his shirt. He took it out and said, "Look, Mother, why don't I take this old lamp to the market and sell it, and with that money we can buy food." "No one will want to buy a filthy old thing like that," she said. "Here, let me polish it up for you." She picked up a rag and began to rub the lamp. At once, the lamp began to hum. Then it began to spark and flash. In the next minute, a cloud of purple smoke came out, and out jumped another genie, 3 times bigger and 3 times mightier than the first one. "I am the genie of the lamp," he bellowed. "Tell me what you wish for, and I will give it to you." Aladdin's mother gave a shriek of terror and fainted onto the floor. But Aladdin snatched the lamp from her and cried, "We wish for food, and plenty of it." And before he knew what happened, a silver tray appeared with succulent roast meats, fragrant rice, piles of luscious fruits, pastries dripping with honey. They sat down to eat until they both felt ready to burst with contentment. And when they were finished, Aladdin said, "Oh, Mother, I have something else I have forgotten to show you. I found these beautiful colored marbles in the enchanted garden. I picked them from the trees." Aladdin's mother gasped when she saw the marbles. She said, "Aladdin, these are not marbles. These are precious jewels. The glowing ones are rubies, sapphires, emeralds, and this one that seems to shimmer with fire is a real diamond. We are rich, Aladdin, we are rich." They sold the jewels, which were worth a fortune, and with it they could afford a fine new house with delicately carved furniture. They dressed in richly colored silk, and thanks to the genie of the lamp, they always had the most delicious food to eat. In this way, the years passed by quickly and happily, and Aladdin grew from a mischievous boy into a handsome, bold young man. One day, when he was walking through the city, he came upon a magnificent procession taking the emperor's daughter, Princess Badr al-Budur, to the baths. At the head of this procession, there marched a pair of heralds who commanded every inhabitant of the city to hide indoors as they passed, for it was forbidden for any common person to gaze upon the princess's beauty. Now you know how bold Aladdin always was. He stole secretly through the streets to the bathhouse. He hid and gleaned a glimpse of the princess, and she was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, and her eyes looked so kind. He fell in love with her, and the very next day he sought an audience with her father, the emperor, and begged him for his daughter's hand in marriage. The princess agreed, and the emperor agreed to let him marry her. A wonderful wedding feast was held. Afterward, Aladdin commanded the genie of the lamp to conjure up a magnificent gilded palace made of cool white marble for them to live in. However, despite Aladdin's good fortune, he did not forget that once he had been very poor. He found many ways to help the city's poor, so that he was soon loved and admired by all around him. Thus, things worked out for Aladdin and his mother and his wife very well indeed. Now, in that story, genies come out of a magic ring and come out of a magic lamp. But in some stories that I've read in the past, I don't remember the names of any of them, but genies can come out of a bottle as well. Now, I decided to make my own bottle with a genie in it, and I chose this bottle. It's just an apple juice bottle, but I think it's pretty and it has an unusual shape, and you probably can't see it, but it has pretty little leaves all around the top of it. So I took this blue scarf and put it down inside the bottle, and then I can pretend and say magic words and call for the genie of the bottle to come out. And then the bottle will begin to puff out blue, mysterious smoke. And the smoke goes higher and higher and swirls all around until the genie appears. Now, I didn't figure out a genie, so what you can do is make your own genie puppet, or make a stick figure genie, have him on a stick sort of glued to the scarf or pinned to the scarf or something, or you could pretend to be the genie yourself. I am the genie of the bottle. And you could have fun with this. So that's the idea of a craft that you could, I want you to see the bottle. You could do it with any bottle. It doesn't have to be a fancy one. And if you do it with a plain bottle, you can decorate the bottle if you want to, like use duct tape, different colors of duct tape, and wrap around it. That might be fun. All right, so I hope you enjoy making your own genie bottle. Next week, I hope you tune in again, because next Thursday's Serendipity program is going to be about the greatest composer who ever lived, Beethoven. Now, you have heard his music in your life, whether you realize it or not, and you have heard some of his famous music in our puppet shows. Whenever there was an exciting moment in one of our puppet shows at the library, you would have heard da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum. That's a famous phrase from Beethoven's writing. Now, the odd thing we're going to read about next week is that Beethoven moved 39 times. He lived in 39 different apartments. And the strange thing is, every time he moved, he had 5 grand pianos. So not only did Beethoven have to move, but his 5 huge grand pianos had to be moved too. And that is a very hard thing to do. But somehow it was done. And next week we're going to find out more about that. See you then.